Welcome in. It is day 341, and you're speaking to the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to be going over a proper gentleman's game. The game is called Obsession. Now, in Obsession, you're going to be going into, old-timey England. You're trying to be one of the rich folk. You've acquired property. You have servants, and you're trying to see if you can get one of the top contenders when it comes to going out and finding somebody to court. Now, the concept of the game is that you're going to be running through 16 rounds. It's going to be 4 different seasons, each that have 3 different turns, and then a follow-up with a courting season. Now, during this game, you have a bunch of little pieces. I don't know enough about this game to get into the crevices of it, but I'm going to give you the basic idea. So you're going to start with a group of 5 rooms that are your mansion. And you're going to start with a small hand of your potential guests, as well as your beginning servants. You'll have your obvious, you're going to have like your guard, you're going to have somebody who's in charge of taking care of the ladies, somebody who's in charge of your basic butler. You're going to have a bunch of these individual types of servants. Now, some servants can fill in for others depending on the type of job, whereas others will never be able to. And then there's going to be some that, depending on the buildings that you acquire during the game, and if you activate them, will train people. So for instance, normally your guard can't help. However, if you get a certain building in the game, the guard can now fill in for your butler. He will have been given the training needed so that he can be a fill-in piece. During the game, you'll pick something out of your available rooms to say, this is where we're going to be holding an event. Then, based on the event you're holding, you'll place certain characters from your hand. Now, there's some restrictions with this. You have to make sure there are some guests that are going to give you money, some that are going to take money. You have to end it with at least it being even or positive. You cannot owe money at the end of your event. You're trying to raise money. Then, when the guests are put out, you're going to be trying to distribute your available butlers and handmaids and all these things to the different guests to the room to get your bonuses. Now, these are going to help you when it comes to building or hurting your reputation. You can start the game off at 1-1, but if you keep building, you have up to 5 that you can build within your level, and then you'll flip and you'll go to a level 2 reputation, and you have 5 there, and you keep going till you get a 6, and then you'll max out. And the reputation's important, as you can spend reputation to acquire more servants or to acquire certain types of cards. You're going to do your event, and you're going to be trying to then use the money you've gained to then go buy a new building for your house. Now, you can buy whatever building you want. The building will have a cost, as well as, depending on where it is in the line, it'll have a cost. So you might have it in the 100 plus whatever the cost of the building, or it could be expensive when it comes out and it's in the 600 row. However, you only buy one building, and the building can only be used if your reputation allows it. Some buildings won't have anything on there. That's fine. You can use it whenever. Some buildings will have the level 1 in there, which means you're fine. You can use that building. But some might have a level 2 or a level 3, meaning if you don't at least have a level 2 or 3 reputation, the building is not available to you right now. Once you're finished with your building, when you return it, it will flip over. Now, some of these buildings flip over and stay there permanently. You have upgraded the building, it is worth victory points, and it is going to give better rewards the next time you use it. Other buildings will flip back and forth. So depending on where you end at the game, the building may be up on one side or the other, but it will give it different payouts. Sometimes it counts as different types of structures. Now, you're going to keep doing all this, having already been given for the round the idea of what buildings you're focusing on to try to win the heart of the fair child that's available. When it's time for that point in the game, you're going to go and say, all right, well, they're scoring based on the blue buildings. You're going to count up all the points you have in blues, and whoever has the most will get to pick the character card they want, taking it from another player's hand potentially, and adding it to their own, as well as a victory point. Then now these are all face down, so you just know you're getting a victory point chip. You're putting it to the side, and you run again. At the end of the game, in the 4th season, whoever wins there and gets the Fairchild characters, they are 8 points individually for the person who has them last. So you could be doing really well and grab them a few times in the game and get those victory point chips. But at the end, whoever gets them gets the victory point chip and the card, which pays out a lot of points. So you might only have to win it once if you win it at the end of the game, and it might be enough to win you the game. Whereas somebody could win them 3 rounds in a row, but it may not be enough because when they lose them, Maybe you only end up getting 3 points from those victory point chips, and now that other player just got 9 points for the chip and the 8-point character card. So you have to be prepared for that. That's the basics of the game. There's a lot more. There's a whole bunch of intricacies to this game. I just haven't played it enough to really dive deep, but I wanted to give a basic introduction, and why don't we just jump in now and talk our 7 categories. When it comes to the art, I actually think the box does a really good job. For the style of game this is, for the theme that you're working with, this box is going to attract the eyes of the people interested in that. And when you set the game up, yeah, it looks a little complicated, but I think that visually speaking, it sells the idea of mansions and parties and guests and your servants, and it does a great job of setting that up. For me, thumbs up. Your components. So you have 3 types of components in this game. You have your buildings, which are all going to be cardboard. You have your guests, which are all cards. And you have your different types of servants, which are all wooden meeples. All of these are great quality. I have no worry of these breaking, easily ripping, falling apart. They look fantastic. Thumbs up. Your price. Obsession's pretty popular. Came out back in 2018. You know, I've seen this in stores. I want to say you're seeing this 3, maybe even 4 out of 5 board game stores. I don't believe I've seen this in a Target, but I have seen it in Barnes & Noble. It's all over the place online. And this is going for somewhere in that range of $60. It's a bit expensive. I think that it's a good game, but because of who this game is really available for, I'm not buying this game unless I'm an expert. I feel like this game is not really intended for anybody below that level. There's a lot going on here, and it's pretty expensive. So I'm not picking this up for my kid, for a beginner, or even for an experienced player. I'm picking this up for somebody specifically into this IP, or who's an expert level player. Because to me, this looks like an expert Euro game. But on top of that, with a theme that, well, I'm not necessarily into the theme, I actually was like, this looks pretty good. I would get it for the theme. The theme doesn't scare me, but that Euro side does a little bit. So I think it's a bit tight there. I'm going to have to give it a thumbs down on the price. I already said it, when it comes to this difficulty, this is not intended for kids or beginners, or in my opinion, even really the experienced player. This looks like a high-level Euro, which to me is for experts. Now, that doesn't scare me. I might consider playing this soon, again soon, and I might even consider putting it in my collection if it wasn't for the fact that I have a friend that already owns it. That being said, it's just not enough categories. Even if you can squeeze in a little bit of those experienced, it's just not enough. I think it's a little bit too difficult. Thumbs down. Replayability. For me, this game is not short. This is a reasonably long game. 16 rounds. They're not going to go fast. You're talking about probably 90 minutes. This is never getting played back to back. This is not a game I'm pulling out on a random weeknight. It's maybe a once a month if you love the game, but because of how difficult it is, I feel like this is one of those games that's probably going to get played a few times, and if it hits for your group, sure, you'll play it a bunch. But if it doesn't hit, or even if it does hit, if it's a group that has as many games as me and my group has, it's going to fall to the wayside and only end up getting played 2 or 3 times for the year. That's your best case scenario. I just don't see the replayability here. Thumbs down. Keys to victory. There are so many keys to victory here. Are you going to invest in more guests? Are you going after getting more buildings? Are you trying to activate your buildings by spreading out, specifically targeting the card that is available to go for this particular courting season? Or are you prepping for the long term and you're going to flip the things that are all worth points? Are you trying to go after specific types of additional staff so that you can help out with certain guests in your hand, or to limit opponents by snagging stuff from them? There is a lot of things that are out there. The game definitely has keys to victory. Thumbs up. Is the game unique? I don't think there's another game quite like this. I've seen the theme before. The theme is nothing new. But this Euro, the way that they have multiple types of meeples, that some can, some can't replicate each other. Some can be upgraded to replicate others. That you have the buildings, and the buildings matter because not only of points, but the ability to flip them. and then to be able to use those to be courting, which only happens 4 times a game. The fact that you have your guests, which are going to help you with all these things as well. This is a really intricate and well-built game that I don't see really anything that compares to it. It's a thumbs up. Overall, what do I think? This looks like one that a lot of people are going to either not be interested in how hard it is or the theme. But if those two things don't scare you, even if you're not being pulled in, I would attempt to give it a try because I think it does stand out. And it's one of those games that may just end up being one of those surprises to your collection. I'm not saying to run out and buy it, but I'd make the effort to try to see if you can get it to the table or at least go watch a how to play, maybe even a playthrough, and see if this game might strike for you. Well, it has been day 341, and we've been speaking about the game Obsession. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. And don't forget, you can look me up on Board Game Arena under the Meeples Champion. You can send me over a game request, a friend request. I'm on a couple times a day. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.